Hey y'all, and welcome to Shade in the City. It's your girl Trace here. And my apologies in advance because I know I'm behind and unfortunately your girl felt under the weather and I had to get my rest. That was the only way I could get back up here and give this recap to y'all. So we are here to do Beyond the Gates season 1, episode 125, y'all. So please do me a favor if you have not already, all my BTG Shade Squad and all of my new viewers too, please go ahead and hit that like button for us, okay? And if you a new viewer and you liking the vibe, please go ahead and subscribe, okay? So y'all, like I said, I was down bad, so I apologize. I know I've been screaming we were gonna go do the 2K live last night, and I just didn't have it to do. Okay, I went to bed at 11:30, and for y'all that know me, I can't remember the last time I went to bed that early. Like it's just not even my body doesn't even get tired till midnight, and that's how bad it was. I will say it wasn't as bad as last time when I had that other. For if you know, you know. Okay, but it was still. I clearly got the message. Sometimes when you don't sit down, God will sit you down. Okay. So I needed the rest. So I appreciate the patience with me. Okay. But y'all. So it's a lot to get into. I apologize for those who are screenshot lovers. You are not gonna get that today because I am just trying to get out here and get y'all this recap. So I can go ahead and get 126 done as well. Cause then we're gonna have 127. So I'm playing a game of catch up right now. So I apologize, like I said, for those who like the screenshots, but for those who don't, you're in luck. You get all me this recap, okay? So let's get into it, y'all. And let's get shady. So we're kicking off this episode. We start off with Naomi and Danny. They're down at the country club talking about how it just still doesn't feel real that Chelsea's home. And so Danny instructs Naomi that girl, you better go home and give Deputy Dogood something he can feel. Let him know this love is real. Okay. And so Naomi said, I'm working on it. I already got something planned out, but Jacob's down at the station. He's busy dealing with, the whole jurisdiction of it all and trying to get Allison extradited back from Virginia. And so that's when Bill walks in and interrupts him. He walks in giving Naomi a hug and he's like, he's giving his kudos to Jacob for being the one to bring Chelsea home. And he says, he's family now more than ever. And I said, damn. So the marriage, the wedding was enough. Okay. But I get it, Bill, because Deputy Do Good can be a pain in the ass, okay, when he's not doing good. All right. Or when he's trying too hard to do good. All right. So then he engulfs Danny in a big hug, and we can kind of see Naomi clocking it. She's a little bothered by seeing this, that her parents look so cozy. So now we see Ted. He shows up at Nicole with white orchids. Okay, stating that he's there to see how things are going. How are you holding up? And so he tries to take a seat without invitation, mind you. Cole is about to respectfully kick his butt out. And Ted says, well, look, I just want to know how, the family reacted to the news that I saved the day. And so Nicole reminds him, Ted, my niece was just rescued after being captive by a stalker. You don't realize that they were a little preoccupied? And I said, Nicole, I don't know what is wrong with Ted. His head is just so, I've already said that he is just so emotionally unavailable. It is disgusting how out of touch he is. And I don't know how Nicole has been married to him for this long. And I'm going to be honest with you. I understand why Nicole feels like her whole marriage was a lie now that she sees the person. Like, I feel like he's showing his true colors. and maybe she just never realized it because she was so in love and being love bombed. But I absolutely feel like she's like, oh my God, who did I marry? Ugh. Ted is telling her that he realizes that, Chelsea takes precedence, but he thought, with Leslie not breathing down their necks, that would give them less to worry about. And so Nicole reminds him, you were at the hospital when the family saw Chelsea, and you know that their minds are not on that. We're just grateful that she's alive. So Nicole was like, is that why you really here? Because you looking for some kudos or a pat on the back? And so then she goes off to continue to look for her purse because she's trying to leave. And then I don't know if y'all do this, but when you want people to leave and get out your house and they're not getting a hint, so you keep doing what you're doing because you were leaving anyway. So hopefully they get the hint that they need to leave as well. That was the vibe I was getting. Now, we see Madison, she brings Chelsea down to the Grands where they have a surprise kind of like welcome home celebration, I guess you can call it. And so everyone is like singing Chelsea's praises. They toasting to her. They're like, we just so happy to have you back. And Anita's like, you fought and I'm just so proud of you. But Chelsea is clearly out of it. Okay. And she's still traumatized by what she went through. And so she was like, you know what? I got another conflict. And she said, I can't do this right now. Okay. And so she leaves, and Vernon's like, damn, I feel bad. What have we done? Okay. And I can appreciate how they throw those in the sport, like, previews, and try to make us think that it's something like real bad. And I mean, I guess it was kind of bad because Chelsea feels bad, but I definitely thought, and I'm sure y'all thought, that he was saying that in response to something else that happened. Am I right or am I wrong? Okay. Anyway, so Kat says that she spoke to Chelsea, and she said that she was okay with a small little gathering. So she's leaves out to go check on her as well. And then Vernon looks at Anita and he said, look, I just wanted to know Chelsea to know how much she was loved. Damn. I didn't mean to do nothing wrong. Anita reassures Vernon that Chelsea knows that we love her, but knowing and feeling are two different things, and some wounds need more than love to heal. Come through, Miss Anita. He was down at Orphe Jeans and she's on the phone with Leslie, and she's like, well, have you been up all night thinking about how Ted played in your face? And so Leslie claims, well, no, I'm over it. And, I got money and I ain't gonna let the Duprees stop my shine. So Eva starts talking all rough and tough about, with her Afro puff, and about how the Duprees are dead wrong. And she's willing to have her mama's back. Mama. Okay. And so even Leslie is surprised to hear her talking crazy, like, who are you? And so she hops off the phone with Leslie because Tomas has walked in, and apparently he's there to meet her because she texted him. And I said, see, I'm already irritated. I ain't even gonna hold you. I was really irritated with this scene altogether. And so Tomas is filling Eva in on Chelsea returning and how, relieved Bill sounded. And she starts talking about how, Bill did her mama dirty. And Tomas agrees, yeah, it was foul. Okay, Tomas, whatever you say. But he brings up how, but at least it keeps your mother from moving across the street like you wanted. And Eva said, well, seeing how hurt my mama was, I feel like she has the right to be happy. And so Tomas was like, I agree. Even though she's a trifling ass, I agree with you. Okay. And so she starts giving him googly eyes, and not, okay, let me fix it. Those were Allison eyes. So she starts giving him googly eyes, and she said, well, and he's like, well, what you want me to do? And so Eva starts explaining she thinks her mother is still the young woman that thought she had found her forever in Ted. Talks about how hoping can make you stupid. And I said, oh, oh, so you can't play ignorant because you're doing the same thing that your mother's done. You realize that, right? You're hoping that Tomas will leave Kat and come with you. It's the exact same thing. Okay, I need you to connect the dots. So then he warns her that basically Bill is coming for her too. And so Eva brings up how Bill forced Leslie to leave town when she was carrying her, and believes, he's trying to do the same thing again. And so Tomas mentions how, well, this is a whole new side of you, Eva, taking up for your mom. And Eva says, well, I'm just so tired of seeing powerful men tell my mother where she can and can't be, or I'm sorry, where she can and can't exist. And so Tomas advises her, well, look, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't be taking on no fights that I can't win. And so Eva says, well, I'm looking for someone that can match Bill move for move. And so Tomas tries to give her a referral, and Eva sitting there googly eyed, okay, and said, I don't want a referral. I want you. Okay. Yeah. All right. So then we move back over to the country club where Vanessa is still trying to sit down with Leslie and tells her that the Jarvises are not thrilled about her sudden change of heart. And so Leslie said, I don't give a damn. It tells Vanessa to basically convince them because I'm not taking no for an answer. So Vanessa was like, well, there's been a recent development since you pulled your offer, and the Jarvis family have discovered some trees. And I said, well, Vanessa, if that ain't pulling, I don't know what is. Okay. And Leslie doesn't buy it, and neither did any of us. It was something about some sycamore trees. I can get about trees. If it ain't producing no fruits, no vegetables. Look, I said vegetables. If it ain't producing no fruits, I could give a damn. Vanessa tells her that, it's time to move on. And she starts to show her other homes that are available to move in now. And I will say some of the neighborhoods that she was saying from somebody who has worked in DC, never lived in DC, but I've worked in DC for a long time. And all of the neighborhoods that she named are rich. Okay. Like very, very, they may not be Fairmont Crest, but it's very wealthy. If I was Leslie, I would have, but I know she want to be across the street from the Duprees so she can see them. Leslie asked Vanessa, are you finished or are you done? And so she points out that the homes that Vanessa's showing her are not in Fairmont Crest. And she accuses Vanessa of tap dancing to keep her out the gates. And she is adamant about buying this Jarvis house. And so she's like, you know what? You trying to play me like Ted played me. And so Vanessa said, look, I am very good at my job and I value my reputation. So Leslie said, well, if you value your reputation, then I suggest that you get me that house, or she threatens to report her for racial discrimination. I said, not the white woman married to the black man with the black best friends and okay. That's what you're going with. Okay. Danny comes over to the Dupree house and she's like, oh, I heard that Chelsea just walked out. Anita said that she was filling Nicole in basically because Nicole has gotten there on how Chelsea froze like a deer in headlights. And so Nicole speaks up and shares that, when trauma victims think that they're fine, their mind and body tell a different story. And she has a long road to getting better. And so Vernon feels like, well, maybe I just pushed her too hard. But Bill and Naomi let him know that, look, you're not wrong for trying to make Chelsea feel loved, basically. And so Naomi offers, well, maybe I should go talk to her as her sister. But Vernon lets her know that, look, I don't know, she's with Madison and Kat just went right behind him. So I think she's good. And he suggests maybe the best thing we can do right now is give her some space. And so Bill completely agrees. And I just love Bill back in the fold. I ain't even gonna hold you. I know that is not the popular opinion and I do not care. Um, and so Vernon reassures Naomi that Chelsea will find her way back because the Duprees always find their way back home. So Nicole is back in the living room and she's telling Danny and Anita that basically Chelsea is suffering from classic PTSD. And so she tells them the best thing that they can do is follow her lead. And so Danny says, Allison claimed to love her, but love doesn't leave these type of scars. I ain't never been through nothing like this, but Danny, Bill put you through a lot. I don't know if that's true. But I hear what you're saying. I get what you're saying. But then Nicole explains that that's not love and it's psychological warfare. Jacob is down at the station trying, and Allison is working his nerves. Okay. She keeps quoting Chelsea in her social media. Right. So, yeah, he trying to take the mug shots, and she's talking about how she learned these poses from Chelsea. Okay. And so Jacob tells the accompanying officer how she's been quoting Chelsea's social media like it's the Bible and acting like, she's shooting content for social media instead of facing a kidnapping charge. So Jacob is like, please pray for my strength, Lord. And so he asked her to stop quoting Chelsea's Instagram archives. And so then he tells her, look, I spent all night playing jurisdictional hot potato to get you here. And so Allison responds, well, you should have saved yourself the headache and let love win. And so she said, the only crime that is happening is keeping two soulmates separated, and tells Jacob he can't criminalize true love. And so Jacob advises her to find a lawyer who lives in the same crazy world as she does and suggests she needs several therapists. Okay. And so Allison said, I don't need a lawyer. I need my wife. Chelsea and Madison, they go over to the boom boom room. And Madison is trying to figure out what's going on because Chelsea was fine with the idea originally of seeing her family. And Madison asked, well, are you worried about having to relive the moments, if they ask you about it? Or is there something that you haven't shared with us? And so Kat interrupts because she's, was right behind them and says, I want to know what's eating at you as well, because whatever it is, you got us. You know what I'm saying? And so Chelsea blames herself. She's like, I was overreacting. And Kat tells her, your reaction came from the heart and it's valid as hell. I love my cat. I love my cat, Chelsea Cat. Okay. So Chelsea believes she wouldn't have escaped the nightmare if it weren't for Kat, Madison, and Jacob. And it's funny, shout out to Sky. I was on your Twitter spaces, I'm sure you know, last night listening it to you. And I found it very funny. And I hope you're available Friday night so we can discuss. Because I found it hilarious that you had so much smoke for Madison and really don't think this girl did anything to help her. We'll talk about it later. We cool. So we'll talk about it later. But I thought it was hilarious. So then Kat offers to leave and give Chelsea and Madison some alone time. And she assures Chelsea that, look, I'm only a FaceTime away if you need me. And so after Kat leaves, Chelsea tells Madison how her notifications are blowing up and the internet is buzzing about the launch being canceled. And so Madison is trying to get Chelsea to see that, well, your fans care about you, boo. And Chelsea said, well, one person cared a little too much. Okay. And so she's still struggling with the fact that she could have ended Allison with the chain around, and speaks about how, all she felt was rage at the time. And so she says she doesn't hate anyone. That's just not her energy. And Madison explained, I understand, but that's why you hesitated. And I understand because I would have done the same thing in that scenario. So she tries to reassure Chelsea that Madison will be locked up for a long time, but Chelsea isn't too sure about anything anymore. And so Madison said, look, justice for Chelsea is trending right now, and your fans will not let this get swept under the rug. However, Chelsea says, there's also people wanting to free Allison. And, she wants proof with her own eyes that Allison is going to pay for what she did to her. And so she grabs her bag and she walks out, leaving Madison to run behind her and try to figure out where she's going. So back at the Dupree house, Danny spots Bill sitting on the steps and she shares that Nicole is in the living room spitting facts about trauma, right? And so Bill says, yeah, I overheard, and he's furious with what Allison did to Chelsea. So Danny says, I don't think jail is enough, and she wants her locked up in a basement for the rest of her life so she can feel what Chelsea felt, but worse. So Danny's like, what did Chelsea do to deserve this? And Bill tells her he's upset with what Allison did, but he's grateful to have Chelsea home. So Bill tells her, look, go ahead, plot your revenge, even rage, but advises her to leave some room for some gratitude and say gratitude that she's home and they can help her heal. And so Danny asks Bill, when did you become so wise? And said, it looks good on you. I said, yeah, I was here for it. I was like, you know what? If he can work his way back and earn, I know y'all don't like it, but if he can earn his way back, not Ted his way back, I'm not talking about Ted's way. I feel like Bill would actually put in the work to get her back. That's just and I wouldn't mind it. I ain't even gonna hold you because I just don't want to see him with Haley. He's so much more interesting when he's not around her. She leans into Bill's arms and she says, she'll be grateful, but says Allison better pray she doesn't see her coming. And so they're interrupted by Naomi, and Danny is like, let me go back to the living room. It's awkward. And Bill's getting a phone call, but Naomi snatches the phone before he can answer. And she demands to know what's going on between him and Danny. Now, Back at the country club, Vanessa asked Leslie for more of an explanation because she's genuinely confused on how she racially discriminated against her in a predominantly Black community. So Leslie pulls out a mirror and holds it up to Vanessa. Okay. And she tells Vanessa she sees a gatekeeper who's given her attitude since day one. And Leslie suggests that maybe she's not the right type of Black for Fairmont Crest. So Vanessa lets her know, look, I followed your instructions to the letter. Okay. And even went and told Vernita face to face about buying a house across the street. So I didn't realize that she had put Vanessa up to doing that, but that's something that we learned, right? Oh, she lets Leslie know she made this confrontational and gave them ammunition to block her. That wasn't me. So Leslie tells her, look, keep it real. You enjoy seeing me get knocked down. And Vanessa said, keeping it real, Miss Thomas, your plan was to weaponize me. I said, Vanessa, you better use that mouth. Okay. She accuses her of seeking her out, knowing she was Nicole's friend and thought it'd be fun to use her to further humiliate Nicole. Leslie tells her, you've been a roadblock to my dreams, and roadblocks destroy careers. And said, do you catch my drift? And so Vanessa wants to be clear. Are you threatening me? It says, because I hear that loud and clear. And so Leslie said, look, I'm just keeping it 100. So whatever you decide to do with that information is your choice. And she warns Vanessa to remember, I got receipts. So choose wisely, sis. So Vanessa clocks her and said, look, I see what you're doing, trying to play the race card. And Leslie said, well, it's not about what I think. It's about what your clients are going to think when they Google your name, and warns her that the internet is forever. So Vanessa says, despite her supposed failing, you still ain't fired me. And so Leslie admits, yeah, I do want to keep you close since you are Nicole's friend. And so Vanessa tells her, look, I'm a real estate broker. I am not David Copperfield, and I can't make people magically change their minds. And so Leslie doesn't believe that and tells her, get on the phone with the Jarvises and let them know that I decided to double my offer. So back at Orphe Jeans, Tomas wants to be clear on what Eva is asking him to do because Bill is his boss and basically has him on track to be partner. And Eva gaslights him and, you have the skills to be the next Bill Hamilton. And so Tomas lets her know that, look, that's what I'm trying to work on now. And so Eva said, you know what? If you're always waiting for a seat at the table, you might be waiting forever. And so that's when Kat walks into Orphe Jeans and she sees the two together. And so Eva is trying to convince Tomas that he can revolutionize the game. Are you serious? No, Moss? Okay, girl. And you let her hype you up, dumbass. So Kat walks in and interrupts and tells Eva she should start paying rent for how much time she spends with her man. And I said that part, even though that's not who you need to be really going up for. But okay, girl. And so Eva claims, well, we were just talking about books. And so Kat is like, which one? And she's like, oh, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And so she's like, we were talking about investments. And Kat says, oh, well, I hope you learned something because I know you're tired of your thrift store fits just like we are. And I said, damn, Catherine. And so Eva decides to leave, but not before she tells her, well, I'm happy that Chelsea is home safe. And Kat tells her, oh, you're just probably disappointed that it wasn't me. And Eva says, well, I didn't say that, but since you brought it up. I said, oh, you are your mother's child. It's what I've been saying. She's just as evil. Kat has been right from the jump. She's not going to cut her off because she is her. Tried to told y'all. Okay. So then Ted shows up at the Dupree house to everybody's surprise. And Nicole was like, what are you doing here? And Ted claims, well, I saw all the cars in the driveway, so I assumed that there was a gathering for Chelsea, and I wanted to stop by and tell her how relieved I was for her. And so Anita says, well, yeah, we did have something going on, but Chelsea left. And so Nicole tells him, well, I'll be sure to pass that message along. And so then Ted decides to address Anita and said, I know y'all had a lot to worry about, but please understand that you don't have to worry about Leslie moving across the street from y'all. And so Anita was like, okay, why is that? And so Ted explains how, I took matters into my own hands and sent her attention somewhere else. So she rescinded her offer. And so Anita tells him, "Oh, how resourceful of you." So then Nicole's like, "Are you done?" And reminds him that you you didn't need to fill everyone in because there are more important things going on. And I told you that. But she said, "Oh, but of course you needed credit, and that's why you showed up uninvited." I said, "Read him for filth, Nicole." So Ted claims, "No, I came for Chelsea and, to relieve some stress for Vernita." So Nicole tells him, "Look, you did a good deed, but that doesn't change anything. And you can't walk back in there like you can't walk back in here like a new favorite son." So Ted says, "Chelsea is my niece and we have children. So I'm still part of this family." And Nicole lets him know, "Your kids aren't here. And for the people in there socializing with them on a whim, oh, you blew that privilege out of the water when you gave me a reason to divorce you." And so Danny comes next to Nicole and she's like, "I second that. I concur." And so Vernon comes in the room and he's like, "Ted, I'm surprised to see you here. What you doing?" And so before Nicole kicks him out, she consults with her mom and she said, "Mama, I ain't trying to be disrespectful. This is your house." And so Nita said, "Girl, go on and handle your business." And so Nicole said, "Please leave. We don't need your help." And so Ted is like, "What is it going to take for you to give me a chance to make things right?" And Nicole said, "There's nothing that you can do." Basically, he's like, "I've been a part of this family for a long time. And what you guys have went through, that's when family sticks together. And that's me and you. We're a team." And Nicole says, "No, we were a lie." I loved it. I loved it. And Ted says, "You know what?" And so Ted is like, "I'm still Martin and Kat's dad." And he's like, "Are you going to exclude them from the sins of their father?" And Nicole says, "Nope, just you, just you." And says, "And the sooner you leave, the faster I can start." So Naomi is finally cornered her dad and she's letting him know, "I've been watching you and Danny since the Chelsea situation started." And she says, "Mom is really leaning on you and you're allowing it." And Bill reminds her, "Chelsea was in danger, so that's to be expected." So Naomi wants to make sure that, "I want to make sure that you're not going to take advantage of it since, my mommy is still loyal to you, right?" And Bill reminds her, "I'm married to somebody else. Don't forget that. And just because Haley is absent doesn't change the fact that I'm her husband." And so Naomi says, "Well, I'm just worried about my mama's feelings." And Bill said, "Look, you need to go talk to your mama then." Okay. And he expresses, "Look, I understand how protective you are. However, this is a family coming together in crisis. And I really need you to stop looking for problems when there aren't any." And I was like, I mean, I know what Naomi is clocking because I'm clocking it too, but I'm not as upset about it because I wasn't involved in it. I understand she's personally hurt because she saw what her mother went through and how her daddy played. I get it, but I can't say I'm not rooting for it. Anything but Haley. That's where I'm at. I would have took what the girl we saw in the office that was divorcing her husband. I would have took that, honestly. Chelsea comes storming in the station and she said, I needed to see Allison locked up for herself before calling her a crazy psychotic. Okay. So she goes off about how she's not even able to be around her family without thinking about her standing over her with a knife. And so Madison is trying to calm her down. And Chelsea tells her, "You're in my head every second, every moment of every day." And so Allison looks at her and says, "I never meant to frighten you, my love." And I said, "That was frightening." And so, "I thought being together was what you wanted." So Jacob reminds her, "Girl, you got the right to remain silent. I keep telling you that." And so Allison says, "Why would I stay silent about my love for my wife?" And I said, "Lord." And of course, this infuriates Chelsea. And so Allison tells her, and so no, so then tell him to drop the charges, Chelsea. Tell him to just let it go so we can get back to our lives. And so Madison is trying to calm Chelsea down when Allison starts addressing her and said, "You're disposable. And you're only around to make me jealous." And I said, "Oh my God." She even goes as far as to call Madison a pick me. Okay. So I was, "No one understands my wife the way I do." Mm. And so then she brings up how Chelsea had an instant viral moment and asks what her followers are saying because I know you checked your notifications, and tells her, and it's all because of us. And I said, Lord Jesus. All right. And then we go back to the country club where Vanessa's just confused as hell by Leslie wanting to double this offer. And Leslie said, I don't play no games. And I want to overwhelm the Jarvises and be able to open up my front door and wave at the Duprees. Okay. And so Vanessa agrees to get on the phone. And Leslie said, and you know what? This time you ain't got to go tell the Duprees. I'll go tell them myself. I said, ugh. It is getting a little tiresome, y'all. It is. It is good. And y'all know I love me some Trisha Mangan. I love me some Leslie, but it's getting a little tiresome. But y'all let me know your thoughts. But that was the recap for episode 125. If you haven't already, that was Tuesday's episode. If you haven't already, please do me a favor. Go ahead and hit that like button. Make sure that you guys comment. I don't even have to tell y'all because y'all always do, but make sure that you're subscribed. And make sure you hit the notification bell so you know when we drop in other recaps as well as when we're going live. We are planning to do the live tonight, probably around 8:30ish. So y'all stick around for that. Have your notification bells on. And yeah, y'all, make sure you're following us on all the platforms, the TikTok, the Blue Sky, the IG, Facebook, Twitter, X, Lemonade, all that good stuff. And yeah, I'll spin the block and I'll drop 126. And then of course y'all see me for 127. But yeah, thank you for your patience and I'll catch y'all later. Bye-bye.